Hello everyone! Every page tells a new story. Welcome to the world of endless animation. The movie begins with the small yellow creatures called minions, who have been living on Earth for a long time. They have only one goal, which is to help the most evil leader in the world. Their first leader was the predatory dinosaur T-Rex. By chance, one of the minions takes a banana and moves a rock, causing the rock to roll and the dinosaur to fall into a volcano. Before the dinosaur falls into the volcano, the rock almost stops, but one of the minions rolls down from the top of the mountain and collides with the rock, causing the dinosaur to fall into the lava and die. After a while, the minions find a new leader, a human who is completely different from the dinosaur. One day, this human encounters a wild bear and tries to defend himself using a tree trunk, but the minions offer him a fly swatter instead. Of course, the bear ended up devouring the man. After that, they find a new leader, who is the Pharaoh of Egypt, but they inadvertently cause his death along with all those who were with him during the construction of the pyramid. They later joined Dracula, the vampire, to celebrate him. But during the celebration, they opened the window, allowing sunlight to enter, which led to his death. This situation continued with the minions until humans began to drive them away and chase them. In the end, the minions fled and went to live in an icy cave. In this cave, they lived a life full of fun and excitement. But over time, they felt emptiness and depression due to the absence of an evil leader to guide them. Then a minion named Kevin appeared, gathered all the minions to encourage them, and presented his idea, which was to leave the cave and not return until he found the most evil leader on the planet. To implement this idea, he needed volunteers. A little minion named Bobo went out and begged Kevin to let him join, but Kevin ignored him because he saw him as too small and unable to handle the risks of the journey. Fortunately, another minion named Stuart appeared and decided to join Kevin on his journey, after being encouraged by all the minions. And when Kevin saw Bob's determination to help, he decided to take him with them. The three friends bid farewell to the rest of the minions and began their long journey, which took them through forests and mountains until they reached the waters. On board the boat, they felt extremely hungry, and Stuart began to imagine that Kevin and Bob had turned into two bananas and tried to eat them. The three friends continued to try to devour each other out of extreme hunger until a ship passed by them. Later, they reached the Statue of Liberty and felt overwhelming joy as they realized they were in New York City. They got out of the water and started looking for clothes that fit them, and they liked the children's clothes and wore them. They wandered around the city wearing these clothes, happily discovering the place. Stuart was very happy and imagined himself as a guitarist, while Bob went to a shopping mall. Kevin and Stuart followed him in search of him until they found him. But when they decided to leave, they discovered that the mall had closed and there was no one else inside. They felt happy and decided to relax on the bed and watch TV. While Stuart was trying to turn on the TV, he opened a secret channel that was broadcasting news about the Villains Conference, a gathering of all the criminals around the world. They learned that the conference would be attended by Scarlet Overkill, who is considered the most evil villainess in the world. The conference was to be held in Orlando. Kevin and his friends were happy and decided to attend the conference only to find an evil leader leading them. They left the mall and started asking people how to get to Orlando. A small child showed them the right direction. They stood by the road waiting for a car to pick them up, and Stuart tried to stop a truck but failed. Stuart got angry, picked up a rock, and threw it away. An idea struck Kevin, so he wrote the word Orlando on a piece of paper and stood in the middle of the road. After a while, a suspicious car stopped in front of them. Inside the car was a family consisting of a father, a mother, and 3 children. The father offered them a ride because they were also heading to Orlando. Kevin and his friends were happy and got into the car. After a short while, the car stopped, and the father and his family got out and robbed a bank before quickly returning to the car. The police started chasing them, so the father used a submachine gun to attack them, but he ran out of ammunition. By chance, Stuart and Kevin found a weapon in the car and started arguing over who would use it. A bullet was fired from the weapon, cutting the power lines, which caused the water tank to fall. This caused the police cars to malfunction, and the father and mother were astonished and thanked Kevin and Stuart for their help. The father and mother told the minions that they were also heading to the Villains Conference, which increased their joy. As for the rest of the minions, they were living a miserable life while playing, until one of them discovered their new leader, a creature called the Yeti, with his family. The minions felt happy and celebrated their new leaders. At this time, Kevin and his companions had arrived in the city of Orlando, which was not as they had expected. But the father goes to a specific place and uses a password that activates a ventilation shaft emerging from the ground, which pulls them in and takes them to the conference venue. After that, they get out of the car, and the father and his family bid farewell to Kevin and his friends and leave them. Kevin, Stuart, and Bob start looking for the best villain leader that suits them. But they don't find anyone suitable until they learn that Scarlet Overkill is at the conference, so they decide to go see her. Scarlet appears flying through the air using her dress, then descends to the stage. She welcomes the audience, who cheer for her enthusiastically, encourages them, and tells them that they are the greatest criminals and villains on the planet. Scarlet announces that she needs new assistants, and Kevin and his friends rejoice when they hear this and decide to make her their leader. Scarlet adds that whoever can take the jewel from her hand will become her new assistant. One of the criminals climbs onto the stage and tries to attack Scarlet, but she easily defeats him. Kevin and his friends are scared by the scene and decide to return to their seats, but the rest of the villains pull them onto the stage. Bob tries to retrieve his toy that fell on the stage, and Kevin and Stuart help him get it back. Everyone gathers around Scarlet to try to defeat her, but she flies them away. Suddenly, she discovers that the jewel is not with her, but with Bob, who had swallowed it. Bob retrieves the jewel, and Scarlet rejoices, announcing that the minions are her new assistants. The audience celebrates with Kevin and his friends, who feel happy. After that, Scarlet takes them aboard her plane, which is characterized by its strange design. The plane takes off quickly, and Kevin calls their minion friends to tell them they are on their way to England and that they have found the greatest villain on the planet. At that time, the other minions were celebrating their new leaders, who were Yeti creatures. But due to the loud noise during the celebrations, an ice block falls on their Yeti leader, leading to his death. The minions flee the cave in a state of panic. Scarlet's plane arrives in London, taking them to her one-of-a-kind palace. They disembark from the plane, and Scarlet goes to meet her husband Herb and introduces him to the minions as her new assistants. Scarlet tells the minions that Herb is the inventor who makes all the devices she uses in her evil plans. Then, Scarlet takes them and Herb to a place that contains all the loot they have stolen from the world. Scarlet tells them that if they manage to steal Queen Elizabeth's crown, she will acknowledge them as her best assistants. Kevin, Bob, and Stuart are delighted by the idea and decide to steal the crown. They go to Herb's lab and explore the place, and they see a device that looks strange. Herb tells them that this device will be his greatest invention when it is activated. He descends to them using mechanical arms and gives Bob these arms, and also gives Kevin a volcanic lava gun capable of destroying any metal. As for Stuart, he gets the hypnotic hat and tries it on Kevin and Bob. After that, Scarlet takes them to the bedroom and scares them by saying that if they don't steal the crown, she will kill them and all their friends. They leave the room feeling terrified, but Bob, strangely, remains happy. The next morning, a bus arrives at the castle where the crown is located, and Kevin and his friends get off disguised as women. They head to the ticket booth, present a gold ingot to the clerk to get a ticket, then enter the castle and sneak into a restricted area. They take off their disguises, but a group of guards spots them and surrounds them. Stuart uses the hypnotic hat, making the guards sing and dance with him. Kevin and Bob are delighted and dance with the guards for a while. Then they leave the place heading towards the closed gate. Kevin uses the lava gun to melt the gate, and they all enter the place where the crown is displayed. While they try to steal it, the police start chasing them. Bob manages to escape from the guards using the robotic arms and moves over the buildings, but he falls to the ground, where a car hits him and pushes him into the subway tunnel. Bob manages to avoid a fast train at the last moment. Meanwhile, Stuart tries to take the crown from Queen Elizabeth, but she shows her strength and hits him. As for Kevin, he tries to control the carriage before it falls into the water, but the horses go out of control and leave the carriage. Bob manages to catch the cart with his mechanical arms and brings it back to the road, but it crashes into a tree and breaks apart. At that moment, Queen Elizabeth orders the guards to arrest Kevin and his friends. They try to escape, but the guards manage to catch Kevin and Stuart, while Bob manages to climb the legendary rock that holds King Arthur's sword. Using the mechanical arms, he pulls the sword from its place, causing the guards to bow to him in respect. The news spreads through the media, and Bob is declared the new King of England because he managed to pull the sword. Scarlet is shocked and decides to take revenge on them, thinking they betrayed her and took the crown. Meanwhile, the other minions are walking on the ice heading to England as Kevin told them. They encounter a ferocious bear and quickly run away from it. After a while, they appear in Australia, then in India, and finally board a plane. As for Bob, he is extremely happy to have become the king, and he asks the guards to wear yellow like him. He gives a speech to the audience, who don't understand anything he says, but they cheer him on enthusiastically. Bob and his friends are having a great time at the palace playing with Queen Elizabeth's dogs, while Stuart is living the best days of his life in the jacuzzi. They continue their happy life in the palace until Scarlet arrives suddenly. Scarlet appears holding the volcanic lava cannon, threatening them. She accuses them of exploiting her and her husband, Harb, to steal the crown. Kevin asks her to take the crown and the sword to become the queen, but one of the guards tells her that Bob cannot abdicate the throne because the law prohibits it. Later, the announcer declares that Bob has changed the law to allow Scarlett to become Queen of England. A press conference is held where Scarlett thanks Kevin and Bob for stepping down in her favor. She then takes them to the palace, opens all the doors for them until they reach the top floor. There, she closes the door behind them and tells them that she hates them, revealing that Herb will use all the tools in the place to torture them. Then she leaves them and departs. Herb arrives and starts torturing them using all the tools and weapons available in the place. He tries to cut them, but they stretch out, and when he tries to hang them, they see it as a game and happily cling to the rope. Herb gets excited and continues testing the weapons on them, but he fails to harm them. After a while, he bids them farewell and leaves to meet Scarlett, who is preparing to become the Queen of England. Herb had designed for her a beautiful and sophisticated dress equipped with all the dangerous weapons. At that moment, Kevin discovers a hole in the dungeon floor leading to the sewer network. Bob decides to write an apology letter to Scarlett on a bouquet of flowers and puts it in his bag before they continue on their way. Meanwhile, Scarlett, accompanied by Herb, heads to the castle to deliver the crown and become the Queen of England. Kevin and his friends emerge from the sewers and head towards the castle, but they find the door locked. They climb the wall and go up to the roof. And during that, a bee flies out from the flowers Bob is carrying, causing him and Stuart to panic and start running, which leads them to jump onto the chandelier hanging above Scarlett. They continue running out of fear of the bee, causing the chandelier to shake and threatening to fall on Scarlett. Kevin intervenes and grabs a rope, trying to save his friends. He grabs Stuart and then pulls Bob, but the chandelier eventually falls on Scarlett and destroys her. Kevin and his friends quickly flee the scene. Scarlett rises from under the chandelier, extremely angry, and orders all the villains present to attack them. The villains start chasing the three who are trying to escape. Stuart uses a rope to trip some of the villains, but their numbers are too great, causing them to continue the chase. Suddenly, a digger emerges from underground and separates Kevin from Stuart. The clown chases Stuart and Bob and throws an exploding pipe at them, causing Stuart to be captured, while Bob manages to escape and hide in a distant place. But a monster emerges from the sewers and kidnaps Bob. Meanwhile, Kevin manages to hit the villain chasing him and escapes, and begins searching for Stuart. Meanwhile, the rest of the minions arrive in England via the subway. Later, Kevin enters a pub to hide from the villains, but he is surprised to see Scarlett on the television screen, threatening that she will kill Bob if he doesn't return as soon as possible. Kevin makes his decision to go save his friends, so he leaves the tavern heading towards Scarlett's mansion. He enters the palace through the ventilation shaft and sneaks into the escape lab, where he takes all the weapons there to fight the villains. But the villains discover his presence in the palace and break down the door to reach him. Kevin feels scared and accidentally enters one of Herb's unfinished inventions. He accidentally presses all the buttons on the device, and when the villains reach him, the device activates and completely destroys the mansion. Kevin emerges from the palace, transformed into a massive giant, terrifying all the villains who quickly flee to escape him. Meanwhile, Scarlett is preparing to blow up Stuart and Bob using a large amount of dynamite. She lights the fuse and hides with Herb in a distant place. And before the fuse reaches the dynamite, Kevin intervenes and saves his friends at the last moment. But the dynamite is connected to each other, tied to Stuart and Bob. Kevin tries to put out the fire but fails, so he has to use the water flowing from the fountain to save his friends. Scarlett gets extremely angry, flies using her dress, and chases Kevin, attacking him with volcanic lava cannons. Kevin tries to escape from her, but she shocks him, causing Stuart and Bob to fall. Kevin manages to catch them before they hit the ground. Scarlett strikes Kevin again, knocking him to the ground, and before she can kill him, the rest of the minions arrive and cheer him on. Scarlett uses the volcanic lava cannons again to trap them and prevent their escape. And before she can eliminate them, Kevin strikes her, causing the buildings around her to collapse. Kevin thanks his minion friends for arriving just in time, and suddenly, Scarlett, who is still alive, returns. She turns her dress into a rocket filled with volcanic lava and directs it towards the minions. But Kevin manages to catch the rocket and control it, and in the end, he eats it to save his friends. Scarlett tries to escape with Herb before the rocket explodes, but Kevin catches her before she can flee. Scarlett flies at maximum speed with Kevin to the sky, and before the rocket explodes, Scarlett protects herself and escapes using a shield. The rocket explodes in the sky with Kevin, and everyone thinks he has sacrificed himself. All the minions are saddened, thinking they have lost their friend forever. But they suddenly rejoice when they see Kevin still alive, hanging from children's clothes, and crashing into a statue during his descent. After that, the people of England celebrate Kevin, Stuart, and Bob, and applaud them in appreciation of what they have done. Queen Elizabeth thanks them and presents them with gifts for restoring the throne to her. But suddenly, Queen Elizabeth's crown disappears, and it turns out that Scarlet and Herb had stolen it. And before they can escape, they freeze in their place. The one who causes their freezing is Gru, the little child who takes the crown from Scarlet. And when the minions see what happened, they decide that Gru is their new leader. Gru gets into his plane and leaves the place, followed by Kevin and all the minions, marking the beginning of their new adventure. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on the fun. Get ready to relive your favorite cartoons and discover new ones with us.